Ever scroll through Amazon and see something so strange you have to, like, look twice?
Oh, yeah.
That's what happened to me with this book. It's called The Achievements of Kamala Harris, and it's, like, right up there at the top of the bestseller list.
Wow.
And you think, okay, that's impressive.
Oh, this sounds like it.
But here's the thing. The book is totally blank.
Really? A blank book?
Blank pages.
Huh. That is fascinating. And it's not just some kind of like internet joke.
Yeah,
right?
no, this is like
This is a real book.
a real published book
Wow.
by Jason Dudash and Michael Bowles.
Okay.
You can
Wow.
find it on Amazon, even Walmart. It's
Yeah.
presented as a serious fact-based report, on Harris's career.
Okay.
But those blank pages,
Yeah.
pure satire.
Interesting. So let's break this down a little.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of the 2024 presidential election.
Right in the thick of it.
Tensions are high.
Uh-huh.
Kamala Harris is the Democratic candidate, and then we get this blank book.
This blank book, yeah.
So what's the internet doing with this?
Well, the internet is
The internet's going crazy.
going wild. People are leaving, like, hilarious 5-star reviews.
Oh, really?
One I saw said, "Finally a book I can finish in one sitting."
Nice.
Another one joked that it was like the most accurate depiction of Harris's accomplishments.
Ouch.
See, that's where it gets
That's where it gets interesting, right?
super interesting.
Because depending on your political stance, those blank pages can mean something totally different to different people.
Really?
If you're critical of Harris,
Right.
the book being empty might seem like a really harsh criticism of her career.
Yeah.
But if you support her, you might see it as a commentary on how the media portrays her unfairly,
Right.
like focusing on her personality rather than her actual policies.
Yeah, like it's all about the showmanship, not the substance.
Right.
So it's like they've given everyone this political Rorschach test,
That's a great way to put it.
disguised as a book.
Yeah.
And speaking of the authors,
Yeah.
they actually added a disclaimer to the book.
Oh.
It says, "Due to lefty lawyers, we must include that this book is mostly empty."
Oh my gosh, adding fuel to the fire.
I know.
That's brilliant.
I mean, talk about...
That disclaimer in itself is like comedic gold.
Yeah.
Because it acknowledges the legal issues they might face while also making fun of the whole situation.
Exactly.
The absurdity of having to defend a book that's intentionally empty.
Yeah. And this is where I think we need to take a step back.
Okay, yeah.
Look at the bigger picture here.
The bigger picture.
This isn't just about Kamala Harris or even this one book.
It's about something bigger.
It's about what's happening with online humor and how we talk about politics these days.
Online humor and political discourse, how are those two things coming together here?
Well, think about it. A physical book.
Okay.
Something we usually think of as, like, knowledgeable and important
Authoritative, yeah.
is being used for satire.
For satire.
And it's not even the words in the book that are starting the conversation. It's
Uh-huh.
the reaction to it online.
It's the reaction, the reviews, the memes, all that.
All of it.
Wow.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
this blank book
This blank book.
is like a blank canvas.
Okay, I like that.
And the internet is filling it in with
Filling it in.
its own interpretations, biases,
Interesting.
anxieties about what's happening in politics right now.
It's like everyone is projecting their own
Exactly.
thoughts and feelings onto this blank canvas.
Exactly.
And that in itself says something
It really does.
about where we are right now.
Yeah. So is this a sign of how divided we are politically?
Yeah, is this the future of political satire? Are we all going to be reading blank books now?
Or is it just a harmless joke that's gone viral?
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say, but it's definitely making people think and laugh and argue.
All at the same time.
All at the same time, yeah. It's a reminder that even in our digital world,
Uh-huh.
a simple thing like a book
A book.
can still disrupt things, provoke people, start conversations.
Yeah, you can still get people talking.
And that's pretty remarkable.
It is remarkable. It's a fascinating example of how satire is evolving in the age of social media.
Absolutely.
It's not just in newspapers or late-night TV anymore.
No.
It's online. It's happening right now, and
Right.
everyone's a part of it.
Everyone's a part of it.
That's really interesting.
It is.
Okay, so we've got this blank book. It's satirical. It's popular. But it leaves us with a lot of questions.
A lot of questions, yeah.
What do you think are some of the most important questions that this raises?
I think the biggest one is, does the success of this book say more about Kamala Harris or about us, the audience?
Wow, that's a great question. It is easy to just focus on how funny this is.
Yeah.
But there's more to it than that. This blank book in a strange way, makes us look at our own ideas about politics and humor and even truth.
Yeah, because let's be honest, this book is playing with some big ideas. We expect a book, especially one that says it's a report, to be full of facts and evidence and analysis, but this is the opposite. It's empty.
It's like the authors are saying, here's where we should be talking about Kamala Harris's achievements. What if we just leave it blank? What does
Yeah.
that say? It makes us fill in the blanks ourselves.
Which is what everyone's doing, and
Yeah.
that's where it gets really interesting. Because how you understand that blankness, what you put in it, that says a lot about what you already think about Harris and her political career.
It's almost like a social experiment. The book itself is neutral, but people's reactions to it are not neutral at all. It's like a mirror showing us how divided we are politically.
And let's not forget about political satire in history. I mean, this isn't the first time humor has been used to criticize powerful people. Like, remember Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal,
Mm.
where he suggested eating poor children as a way to deal with poverty?
Oh, yeah.
It was shocking, totally absurd, but it got people talking about poverty and inequality, which were real problems.
Right. Satire has always been a powerful way to comment on society. And what's so clever about this blank book is how simple it is. It takes this old tradition of satire and makes it as basic as it can be. The fact that there's nothing there, that's the commentary.
It's like one of those Zen koans, like a riddle that makes you think about deeper truths. And here the truth is that everyone sees things differently. Our own biases and beliefs chain how we see the world around us.
And that's where the connection to online humor comes in. The internet, with its echo chambers and filter bubbles, it makes us even stronger. We like information that agrees with what we already believe, and we don't like anything that challenges us.
Yeah, you could say this blank book is a perfect example of that. It's like a Rorschach test for the internet age where everyone sees what they want to see and it gets harder to tell what's true, what's opinion, and what's just made up.
And that's a dangerous road to go down, because if we can't tell the difference between truth and fiction, we're stuck in our own little bubbles, then it's really hard to have real conversations, to find things we agree on, to understand reality together.
So what does all this mean for the listener? What can we learn from this crazy story of a blank book becoming a bestseller? I think it reminds us to think critically, to question our own assumptions, to know our own biases, and to be open to viewpoints that are different from ours.
Because it's not really about a book or even politics. It's about how we get information in the digital age. How do we
Right.
figure out what's real and what's not? How do we form our own opinions when everyone's shouting at us all the time, trying to get us to feel something instead of just telling us the facts?
And that's where satire gets really interesting. Satire is supposed to make us uncomfortable. It uses humor and exaggeration to show us absurdity, hypocrisy, and injustice. But in a world where everything's already so over the top, so extreme, does satire even work anymore?
Hmm. Good question. We're living in a time of clickbait headlines and viral memes and news all the time. Our attention spans are shorter than ever. We're constantly getting bombarded with information that just wants us to react emotionally. So how does satire cut through all that? How does it make us actually stop and think and question what we're seeing and hearing?
Well, I think this blank book is a really interesting example. It's so minimal, so stripped down, that it forces us to engage with it in a different way. It's not telling us what to think. It's just giving us emptiness, and it's up to us to fill it in.
So it's like the authors are saying, here's the punchline, now you figure out the joke.
Exactly. And that act of figuring it out, filling in the blanks, can tell us a lot about ourselves. It can show us our own biases, our own assumptions, our own ways of understanding the world. And in a way that's more powerful than just telling people what to think.
Yeah, it's like holding up a mirror to society and saying, look at yourselves, this is what you're like.
And I think that's why this book has resonated with so many people, even people who don't usually care about political satire. It's tapping into something deeper, something about being human in the digital age. It's about our need to make sense of a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming. It's about wanting to connect with others who see things the same way we do, even if those views are based on satire, not facts.
That's a really insightful point. It speaks to the power of satire to transcend traditional boundaries and connect with people on a deeper level.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into this strange phenomenon, I think the big takeaway is that this blank book is anything but blank. It's a reflection of our times, a commentary on how we talk about politics, and a challenge to think critically about the information we're taking in.
It reminds us that humor can be a powerful tool for social commentary, even when it's presented in unexpected ways. And it invites us to engage with the world around us in a more thoughtful, nuanced, and maybe even humorous way.
And who knows, maybe that's the ultimate goal of satire, to make us laugh, to make us think, and to make us question everything we thought we knew. And in a world that often feels like it's spinning out of control, maybe that's exactly what we need.
I couldn't agree more. Satire, at its best, has the power to shake us out of our complacency and force us to confront uncomfortable truths. And in a world where truth itself is often up for debate, that's a more valuable function than ever.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, does the success of this book say more about Kamala Harris or about us, the audience?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, it's easy to just laugh about it, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
there's something deeper here
Yeah.
worth thinking about. This blank book, in its own weird way, makes us think about what we believe about politics and humor and even truth.
Because, okay, let's be real. This book is playing with some pretty big ideas. We think a book, especially one that says it's a report, should have facts, evidence, analysis.
Right, it should be full of information.
But this is like the opposite. It's empty.
Yeah.
It's like the authors are saying, here's the space to talk about Kamala Harris's achievements. What if we just don't? What if we leave it blank? What does that say? Right. It makes us fill in the blanks ourselves.
Yeah, and that's what everyone is doing. And that's where it gets really interesting because how you see that blankness, what you put in it, that says a lot about what you already think about Harris and her political career.
It's like a social experiment almost.
Mm-hmm.
The book itself doesn't take sides, but how people react to it definitely does. It shows us just how divided we are politically.
And we can't forget about political satire in history. This isn't the first time people have used humor to criticize powerful people. Think about Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal.
Oh, yeah, where he suggests eating poor children.
Yeah, as a way to deal with poverty. It was shocking and absurd, but it made people talk about poverty and inequality, which were real problems.
Exactly. Satire has always been a way to comment on society. And what's brilliant about this blank book is how simple it is. It takes this old idea of satire and boils it down to its most basic form. No content. The fact that there's nothing there, that's the statement.
It's like a Zen koan, a riddle that makes you think about deeper truths. And in this case, the truth is that everyone sees things differently. Our own biases, our own beliefs, they change how we see the world around us.
And that's where online humor comes in. The internet, with its echo chambers and algorithms that keep showing us the same stuff, it makes this even stronger. We tend to gravitate towards information that confirms what we already believe, and we reject anything that challenges us.
So you could say this blank book is a perfect example of that. It's a Rorschach test for the internet age. Everyone sees what they want to see, and the lines between facts, opinions, and straight-up lies, they all get blurry.
And that's a dangerous place to be. If we can't tell the difference between truth and fiction, if we just stay in our own little echo chambers, then it's really hard to have real conversations, find common ground, agree on what's real.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener? What can we learn from this crazy story about a blank book that became a bestseller?
Well, I think it reminds us to be critical thinkers, to question our assumptions, to know our biases, and to be open to viewpoints that are different from our own.
Yeah, it's not just about a book or politics even. It's about how we get information in the digital age.
It really is.
How do we separate the real from the fake? How do we form our own opinions when everyone's shouting at us trying to get us to feel something rather than just telling us the facts?
And that's where satire gets really interesting. Because satire is supposed to make us uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
It uses humor and exaggeration to show us, like, absurdity and hypocrisy and injustice.
Right, right.
But in a world where everything's already so over the top, so extreme, does satire even work anymore? That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. We live in a time of clickbait headlines and, those viral memes.
Yeah.
And the 24-hour news cycle, our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and we're constantly bombarded with information that's meant to make us react emotionally.
Right. Just like knee-jerk reactions.
So how does satire cut through all that noise? How does it make us stop and think and really question what we're seeing and hearing?
Well, I think this blank book is a really interesting example, actually.
Okay, how so?
Because it's so minimal, so stripped down, it forces us to engage with it differently. It's not telling us what to think. It's just giving us this emptiness, and we have to fill it in ourselves.
It's like the authors are saying, here's the punchline, now you figure out the joke.
Exactly. And that act of figuring it out, of filling in those blanks, can be really revealing. It shows us our own biases and assumptions the way we see the world. And in a way, that's way more powerful than just telling people what to think.
Yeah, it is. It's like holding up a mirror to society and saying, look at yourselves.
Yeah.
This is you.
And I think that's why this book has connected with so many people, even people who don't usually care about political satire. It's tapping into something deeper, something about what it means to be human in the digital age. It's about our need to make sense of a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming.
It's about wanting to connect with others who see the world the same way we do, even if it's through satire rather than just pure facts.
Absolutely.
That's a really good point.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this strange phenomenon, I think the biggest takeaway is that this blank book is anything but blank. It's a reflection of our times. It's a commentary on how we talk about politics. And it's a challenge to think critically about the information that we are consuming.
It reminds us that humor can be a powerful tool for social commentary, even when it's presented in the most unexpected ways. And it's like an invitation to look at the world around us in a more thoughtful, nuanced, and maybe even, humorous way.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe that's the whole point of satire, right? To make us laugh, to make us think, and to make us question everything we thought we knew.
It's to challenge our assumptions and to make us see the world in a new light.
Exactly. And in a world that often feels like it's spiraling out of control, maybe that's exactly what we need.
Maybe we all need a little bit of satire in our lives right now.
A little bit of satire, a little bit of laughter, a little bit of critical thinking. That's what we need.
I think you're right about that.